Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Falabumi Amo. I'm the CEO of Vascon, and welcome to the ninth edition of the A Blank Canvas webinar. We're pleased to have you all here. Today, we'll be discussing effective gallery and artistic management. And we have our speaker, the very graceful, we're very thankful to him, Majid Biggar, the gallery manager at 202 Gallery. Majid, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. Majid is going to share some practical insights and strategies for running successful art spaces and supporting creative practices. I've been to the Tourist Gallery and it was a welcoming space, an amazing welcome that Majid gave us. And I'm very, very excited to hear what Majid has to share with us today. So, to kick things off, the foundation of management, that's managing galleries and also managing artists. So, Majid, drawing from your experience at 202 Gallery and just your experience in the art world in general, what would you say are the top 2 to 3 fundamental pillars of effective gallery management today, especially, I mean, in the African markets, I mean, the one we are in, with this context?
Okay. I think first I will start off with just like a very brief introduction about myself. My name is Majid Biggar, and as our host has said, I manage a gallery called Toronto Gallery, which is based in Ikoyi, Lagos State. I've been in the art industry for about 10 years, and in that, I guess in that span of time, I've been very opportune to work with a number of top art institutions and galleries in the country. So to me personally, I would say that some of the top pillars for effective gallery management, especially in Africa or Nigeria, in the Nigerian art market, the first that would stand out to me would be relationships and your reputation. A lot of times for galleries and also artists here, you get a lot of business or clients through word of trust and word of mouth. So having a reputation or a strong relationship with your clients, with your artists, with other people who know that they can come and they can trust you and is a good ethical person or institution or artist, is actually very foundational, it's fundamental. Without that trust, you can't really have a functional business as a gallery or as an artist. From the gallery point of view, another thing I would say is operational clarity. So if you want to run a successful art business, you need to know your systems. You need to have a strong structure on ground for your gallery. You need to know how you're going to operate, how your client, what is your plan of sales, what is your target, what's your unique selling position for your art gallery. So I believe operational clarity is definitely the very second key pillar in running a successful art business in Nigeria. And then the third would be successfully leveraging and engaging your audience, because a lot of artists and a lot of galleries can put on a good show or create really beautiful, masterful artworks. And then what's the point of all of that if there's no audience to see it? So, knowing how to build a community, engage that community, and keep them fostered and growing around you as a gallery or as an artist continue to grow, that is very, very key to making sure that whatever it is that is your chosen operation succeeds.
Yeah, thank you very much. Also, let's maybe take it back to the beginning a bit. So, when a gallery is just starting, or even maybe it's an artist managing their own space or their own practice, what's the very first operational area they should prioritize in getting right and why?
Okay, one thing that I think can apply here to both artists and galleries is inventory and documentation. I mean, it's very, very key. As a gallery, you need to know which artists you have on your roster, what artworks you have. You need to keep good documentation of what you have, because if you don't know like your inventory, then how do you know what you can sell? If you don't have like a good idea of your artwork prices or what your artists are selling for, or who your artists are, the type of artworks you have, the client can just walk in now and say, okay, you know what, I have like a budget of so and so. Give me artworks that fall into this price range. You have to have your documents ready. You have to know your prices to be on point, and you have to have that sorted out first and foremost before you look at other structures and other things that you want to do. And the same thing applies to artists, I think. If you create artworks, they should be documented. You should have pictures of your artworks. If they've shown, you should keep records of where they've shown. If you sold, you should have like a record of your prices and things like that. Having that information first very on hand and readily it speaks a lot to like a gallery. So if I reach out to you as a gallery manager, I want to put you in a show, and you give me your portfolio, you give me your documentation, your exhibition history, your price range, it already, gives me a certain confidence that this is a professional that I'm dealing with.
Thank you very much. So documentation, operational management, and then also relationships. I think those are the three major things you've touched on so far. So maybe let's go a bit more physical and a bit more personal. How do you approach artist and operational management at CO2 Gallery? Are there any specific things or processes you found indispensable for doing this? What are the things that have helped you weed out maybe people with bad intentions or people that are up to snuff?
Well, I don't know about weeding out people who have bad intentions. Luckily for me, I think so for every artist or anybody that I've engaged with has all had pure intentions. So that's a good thing. But
That's good.
personally, when it comes to artistic and operational management, as I already briefly said, we like to make sure that we have a very good record and documentation. So we do a lot of research on artists before we even, approach them that we want to work with them. We look at the lay of the land, who is doing good stuff now, who is really making waves, who is creating artworks that we feel will resonate with our client base. So we keep detailed artist files on the artists we're interested in, things like biographies. We follow up with their latest body of works. We look at their exhibition histories, if they've shown or participated in any international art fairs, things like that. So the first thing would be to keep good records and documentation of all our artists and anybody we want to work with. Secondly, personally for me, I like to plan ahead. So things like, setting a clear budget, like the budget for my exhibition will let me know how much I can do. It can the budget for your exhibition can influence so much. So like it can influence as much as how much food you can offer, at your gallery opening. So I like to make sure I plan that ahead, know that okay, this is the budget, this is how much my gallery has available to spend for this and this. Make sure everything falls in line with that. Also things like setting timelines for the exhibition, like when the artists have to drop off their work, and I have to get a photographer to come and photograph the images, when my press guys have to start working on a press release, when my marketing guys have started pushing out social media content, things like that. So yeah, without planning ahead, without having good timelines, budgeting skills, and basically like administrative overview of your exhibition, it is very difficult to make sure that nothing slips between the cracks. And then lastly, I like to rely on online tools. So things like, for instance, Vasca now for inventory management systems that will help me track my artwork inventory. I do a lot of art market research. So I use platforms like Artsy, Mutual Arts, ArtPrice, to monitor art prices and auction results, see who's selling for what prices. Shared calendars, to coordinate with my team, things like that. So leveraging digital and online tools to really yeah, give you the boost that you need to now move things on and run successfully and professionally.
All right. Thank you for the free flow. So anyway, moving on a bit. So for artists that are listening and people that are going to get to see this webinar on YouTube, what's one piece of practical advice you can offer on how they can better manage their own, their portfolios, their records? I know you've touched on how the records are important, how the portfolio is important, but how can they make it more appealing, more attractive to galleries so that when they see it, they're like, oh, okay, this is someone I want to work with, or this person has everything in order, and things like that.
Okay. So my own personal advice to any artist, right, that would be to treat yourself almost like a business in a way. Look at yourself as, yes, I'm an artist and I like to create artworks because, this is my passion, this is my drive, this is my talent, this is what I want to, this is my chosen medium to communicate my thoughts and my emotions with the world. But also apart from that, you have to start looking at yourself almost as a business. So one of the first things I like to tell some of the emerging artists that I work with is, make sure you have a strong personal brand. Make sure you develop a consistent brand identity all through either your online platforms or the portfolios that you're putting out there. We like to be able to see consistency between like an artist, no matter what it is. So whether it's your style of work, whether it's the themes you like focus on or the concepts, or just even like how you present your work, we like to see consistency and that ideal uniqueness in your brand. Also using things like, social media and digital platforms. These are really good ways to leverage your brand, and boost make sure that you get like a wider engagement with a wider audience. So using social media, developing a strong personal brand, treating yourself like a business. So when you get an email from a collector or from a gallery or from anybody, making sure that you respond professionally on time. Like I said before, you have all your records and all your documentation. Yeah, so I guess just treat yourself like you're a business. If you want to be taken seriously by galleries and curators, you have to start taking yourself seriously first.
Okay, so thank you for that. So to pivot a bit, so okay, you have your records in order, you have your brand identity, you have your portfolio. So how do you now set about building that relationship with the gallery or with the gallery manager like yourself or with art businesses? Because I think it's not just yes, it's important to build those relationships, but how are you going to do that? So from your perspective, what are the key elements of building that relationship?
So I would say first of all is communication. I mean, I meet a lot of artists either online or at exhibitions. I can sometimes walk up to them or they walk up to me and they're like, "Hi, this is who I am. This is my work. I'd like to share my portfolio, whatever with you." So people are very I'm drawn to people who are very open in their communication, who can project themselves or rather present themselves very well in public. Even when you send me your portfolio, things like that, I tend to pay more attention to let's say portfolios that have clear artist statements, portfolios that can really walk me through the artist's process, what their mind is, themes that they like to explore. So making sure that you have basically good communications with whoever it is that you hope to engage, whether it's a gallery manager. If you go to, let's say you want to work with a gallery, you go to one of their exhibitions, make sure that you can talk to the person that you want to talk to. You can walk up to them, tell them, "Hi, this is who I am, this is my work, this is how I would like to work with you," things like that. And then between artists and galleries, once you've done that introductory phase, I guess just maintaining mutual respect between the gallery and the artist is very important. Making sure that both parties understand that it's a partnership. The gallery needs the artist in order to work, and the artist to some degree needs the gallery in order to really crack some certain benchmarks, I would say. So making sure there's that mutual respect and balance between both parties is very key to maintaining a strong gallery and artist relationship. Things like being transparent as well. So for instance, when I'm engaging an artist I would like to put in a show, we always like to find out things like, okay, when was your last show? How much have you sold your artworks for? Do you have any upcoming exhibitions that might clash with our own exhibition dates? Things like that. So being able to be transparent and open and honest in these conversations is also very key. I would hate to be in a situation where I'm talking to someone, I'm asking the artist a question, and then they tell me one thing, and then later on down the line, I find out that it's another thing, and that affects our working and business relationship. So communication, mutual respect, transparency, and I would say one last thing, compromise. And this applies to both galleries and artists. You have to be flexible. Sometimes it's not necessarily the way you want things to go that will go. There has to be compromise and flexibility between the gallery and the artist. Without that, then, it's just difficult to proceed.
Mm, indeed, indeed. So you have the artist, you have the artworks, you have an idea for the exhibition. So how do you usually handle the logistics of the exhibition preparation from the gallery side? So from artwork placements, labeling, promotional materials. I know, I mean, this is something that we actually discussed when I came with the manual to your gallery. So just walk us through the process of, okay, we have the artist, we have the artworks, we have a theme for this exhibition. So how do you now bring that to reality?
So we have the artists, we have the artists, we have the themes. I guess personally, I like to work backwards. So I will set my exhibition opening dates, like this is the day I want to open the exhibition, and then I work backwards from there. So if, for instance, I want to open an exhibition in November, I already know that in order to photograph my artworks, do all the documentation, do my graphic design, start to build like social media content, I will need to receive those artworks like 4 weeks in advance or things like that. So start planning backwards, make your deadlines, look at your checklist. This is when I need the artworks, this is when I need to do this is when I need that. Make a proper plan. And then after I do that and after I have my timelines and things like that, so when I'm curating my own gallery, because I know the layout of the space, I know everywhere, we do like digital mock-ups. So when I receive the artwork images, I receive the artwork dimensions, I look at that and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to group these artworks here. I think this particular artist will look great in this section of the gallery. These guys' works will work better, at the entrance, things like that. So placement planning, doing mock-ups and things like that. And then really after that, it's just a matter of going through your checklist, making sure all the items that you need to run a successful exhibition have all been accounted for, making sure dot your I's and cross your T's and nothing is left to chance. Then you work on your promotion, making sure you have things like your press release ready, your press materials, your editorial, signage, things that now are key to also to join in user engagement, or rather join in viewers and keeping them engaged when they come to your exhibition. I don't know if that sort of answers the question.
For sure it does. Which even brings me to my next question. So, you've set the dates. So, how do you now, beyond the physical foot traffic, what are some strategies that you employ to, reach and engage your collectors and a broader audience in the digital space? Because I think when you have an event, you'd want more people to come into the gallery than when you don't have an event. So, you want more people to, just to have that visibility. So, how do you go about doing this?
So beyond foot traffic, and again, it goes back to something I already mentioned. I think when talking about how artists should treat their own businesses. Sorry, excuse me. So using social media and online platforms like, Instagram, things like that, we find that these are very useful ways because it lets you connect with like a wider audience. So you can get and engage with people who don't necessarily come into the gallery. You can reach out to collectors or other artists, other galleries or institutions who are, for instance, on other continents, other countries, different places like that. So fully utilizing social media and online platforms is a very good way to enhance your storytelling without just focusing on foot traffic. Also, customer or rather collector relationships is very, very key. So one thing we do in our galleries is that we have mailing lists, and in these mailing lists we segment them. So we have mailing lists like a mailing list for collectors, another one for corporate clients, another one for press. So we have all these different segments, all these different lists, and then we know that okay, you know what, we want to drive sales. So we have like a targeted news campaign or a targeted newsletter that's going just to the collectors. If we want to engage, like, rather we want to boost media engagement, come up with a press release, target that straight to the press list. So, segmenting your mailing list and also tailoring or rather curating content to those particular segments or aspects of your business that you really need to engage with. And then I think the last one is collaborations. I mean, one thing that I found very in the recent years is that I think we're in an era of increased collaboration. So right now you find a lot of galleries collaborating not just with other galleries or institutions, but also other platforms or organizations that are outside of the arts. So you can get people like an art gallery collaborating with a fashion brand, for instance, and then that brings in like a whole new realm of audience, a whole new realm of guests, a whole new realm of people who may have never even come to your gallery. They may not even know that they like art. They may just be fashion lovers, things like that. So collaborations, utilizing online viewing rooms, media partnerships, and just looking for good ways that you can execute your brand, I guess. Those are the strategies we like to engage at. We like to use at Swords.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Just to mention, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box. We'll circle back to them at the end of the the webinar. So, Majid, let's move a bit from sales to pricing. So, I come to the gallery, I see an artwork, I think it has a certain value. The artist thinks it has a certain value. You think it has a certain value, and maybe the gallery also thinks it has a certain value. How do you approach these conversations effectively? I mean, and to make sure, I mean, there's a compromise to reaching a figure that is happy for everyone. How do you approach pricing?
Okay, so I would say that when it comes to setting exhibition prices, it's really a conversation between both the artist and the gallery. It is not a unilateral agreement. The gallery should not by itself just decide that, okay, these are your prices and I'm setting the price. Now, all of this kind of goes back to some of the other things that I've mentioned previously in this conversation. So, for instance, if I'm trying to have this conversation with an artist, before we even come to the part of talking about how much your artworks are going to be in my exhibition, I'd have already asked you to provide me with like, the list of let's say for instance, last five sales you've made, how much are you selling for? things like that. So I've had a conversation with you as the artist, and you would tell me, okay, you know what? I was in a show last year. All my artworks were priced at X. So I already know, okay, you already have a record of selling at this price. Therefore, as a gallery who has your own interest at heart, because really, the gallery is supposed to look out for their artists here, I cannot therefore go and price your works lower than what you were selling last year. If you were selling last year or 2 months ago at 2000 USD, for instance, and then you come and tell me you want to start selling at 10,000, but there's no I can't really trace what is going to explain, or I can't really trace that increase in pricing, then we'll now have that conversation. So this is where artists having their own records can be very useful. On our own side, we do research. Like I said, we look at auction records of what the artists might be selling at, where they sold at their other exhibitions, and then we use all that data research, communication with the artists, and also our own knowledge of the art market, current art market, and our own clientele base, because we know our collectors. We may know what their buying power is. We may know that, okay, they can afford this price range or they can't afford that price range. So you're taking all those factors into place, and then you go and you have your conversation with the artist. And if, like I said, you already have that strong relationship with the artist of transparency, communication, mutual respect, it's just a matter of telling, okay, I see where you're coming from. I see that you're saying at these prices, or rather, I see you want to sell at these prices. I think that's a great idea. I think our clients can afford it. I think your works, there's a track record to show that, yes, we can put you at these prices, or this is why I don't think it will work at that. And here are my suggestions. What do you think? And then it's just about finding balance. So again, compromise. It all comes down to managing your relationship with the artist and vice versa.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm actually learning a whole lot today. So now for client relationships, I know you touched on mailing lists and different segments of the business, but how do you balance the personal touch and then the need for structured clients and and follow up with them? So how do you balance you don't want to, you don't want to badger them. Maybe they've declared interest in something and then they don't want to and then you don't hear back from them, or they are not as forthcoming as you'd expect. So how do you balance the personal touch and then also following up with them, and then so you don't lose these clients and the relationships with them?
I guess it's a similar thing to managing your relationship with your artist. We like to say every collector matters. So we try to keep notes of each interaction, their personal preferences, sorry, past purchases, artists that they're interested in, for instance. So let's say I have a collector who I tried to sell an artwork to the last exhibition, but he didn't buy any. And he made it clear to me that, you know what, okay, I'm looking for this type of artwork instead of, artwork from this artist or things like that. You keep it in mind, you can either use your digital, your CRM, or write it down on a piece of paper. You can keep track of what applies to each and every collector, and then we use that to build personal approaches. So if I have an artwork that I know would resonate with that client, or an artist that he has already expressed interest in, and this artist has new artwork, then I can just send him a very short message. Hi, I know you're fond of this artist. Here are three new artworks straight out of her studio, things like that. So it's keeping a structured record of their interactions, their preferences, and things like that, and adding that personal touch of knowing what they like, when to message them, when is enough, and when you need to put more pressure to follow up on them.
Yeah, maybe I have a bit of a scenario to throw at you. So let's say two clients have declared interest in an artwork, and then you are trying to see, okay, maybe one person is about to get his. How do you handle, that person not feeling left out or missing out on something like that?
Sorry, could you just repeat that question again?
Yeah, I was saying that let's say we have a scenario where two clients have declared their interest in an artwork, and then maybe one of them is more forthcoming than the other, and then maybe both of them now want to pay for it at the same time, or you don't want to lose the other client because one wants to pay. I think like how do you handle something like that?
So this is actually a thing that happens very, very frequently, especially on exhibition openings. So you can get a collector that would come up and say, okay, I really love this piece. I want it, I'm going to buy it tomorrow. So you take the details and you say the artwork is reserved or sold or is going to someone else. And then if I have another collector that comes up and he wants that exact artwork, I tried to explain to them, okay, I know you like this piece, but I already have someone who has expressed previous interest in it. I'm going to keep you in mind. I'll still take your details down. I'll make a note of this is the artwork you like. This is the artist that you're paying attention to. If for some reason that first sale doesn't go through, we have a waiting list of every other person who has expressed interest in our artwork. So I'll come back to you and say, hi, I spoke to you last week at the opening. I know you expressed interest in so and so. This artwork is now available. Do you want to take it forward? But if that sale even goes through, again, like I said, keeping a note of these interactions and these communications that you receive from a client. So the next time I have another available piece from that artist, I can reach back to them and say, oh, hi, I know you wanted a piece from this person. We have one available now. I can actually give an instance of an exhibition where we had a group show we had, I think in 2023, where we had a female artist and all her work sold out pretty much on the opening day, and we just kept on getting demand and demand for that artist's works. And we had to actually go back and ask the artist if she would be willing to, create new artworks that we could now offer. And she was like, yeah, okay, you know what? I understand we need an extra three, four pieces. I can make something available and then sure, and then you communicate that to the client. Okay, I know the piece you wanted initially is sold or it's not available now. I have something else for you. Would you like to purchase it? Do you want to come to the gallery to see it? Things like that.
Mm, thank you. Thank you very much for that answer. I guess managing those relationships on all ends, that's the really the most important thing.
It is very key to managing an art gallery.
Yeah. All right then. So looking at the future a bit, at sustainability and at the long game, what's one future-proofing strategy you believe every art business should adopt right now to ensure its longevity and resilience? Because I mean, a number of galleries they start off hot and then they go out of smoke. And then some maybe they have the staying power, they have the customers, they have excellent relationships with artists and all of that. So what strategy do you think art businesses should employ to make sure that they stay in the markets?
All right, so I think one thing that we're definitely seeing, especially since COVID, I would say, because the art market kind of fluctuated during COVID times, and people since then were forced to create new ways. So pre-COVID, yeah, a lot of galleries could just rely on artwork sales, having an exhibition, and people coming in to the gallery. COVID stopped a lot of that. You had a lot of people that would stop going to galleries. Some galleries had to now move to online sales and things like that. Well, one thing that we noticed, especially here in Nigeria, was that it's actually very important to diversify your income stream as a gallery. So some galleries can sustain themselves and survive just purely on exhibition sales. But we know the art market is in recession currently. Artwork sales are not necessarily where they would be or where we would like to be. So it's very important to, diversify your income stream. Look at your gallery, look at your artists, look at your team. What's your unique selling points? Are there any avenues are there any avenues or opportunities, that you can place yourself in that would bring you income that is not as dominated or as fluctuating, as exhibition sales. So having more than one stream of income, just like personally, there is the same advice you would give, a person on, diversify your income. It applies to galleries as well.
All right then. Thank you. So uh, going back to sustainability and future proofing. So how important is data in your decision making process at the gathering? So maybe how many people have shown interest in this. What do you now use that information to do? What kind of decision making process are being affected by data? And then can you maybe give some examples of how data has informed key decisions for you?
So data is everything. I mean, it is the research that should ideally shape pretty much all of your strategic planning. Sometimes you can plan an exhibition based on the curatorial strength or the thematic strength of that show. However, data is important. It shows you who is selling, what type of artworks are selling, what prices or what prices you can sell for. Without this research, without this data, you're pretty much just, shooting fish in the dark or whatever that expression is. You need data in order to make strategic choices for your gallery. especially when you want your gallery to grow, you want your gallery to become sustainable, and things like that. So I can give you an example, and this is a personal example of mine. Please, nobody shoot me for it. So in my own personal experience, looking at the exhibitions that I have worked on, both as a gallery manager at Sotu and in my previous employment in other galleries, if I was to look at that data, yeah, it would be apparent from my own personal experience again, yeah, that photography exhibitions do not sell as strongly as exhibitions that are of traditional art. And by traditional art, I just mean paintings, drawings, sculptures. So if I was to do an exhibition, if, for instance, I found a really strong photographer whose work really moved me and I wanted to do that art, that exhibition, yeah, my goal or my intention from the start would not be to make profits. It wouldn't be like, okay, this is going to be a commercial blast. No matter how beautiful those exhibitions, those photographs are, no matter how talented the photographer is, and I'm not saying this applies to everybody, but from my own experience with the collectors I've worked with, the people who have bought art from me and from the galleries that I've worked with, we've noticed that photography doesn't sell as well as paintings. And this is a kind of decision or kind of um, insight you can't really know or have if you don't keep track of your exhibition. If you don't know, okay, I sold this percentage from this, I've sold X amount percentage of photographs, or the total amount I've made for paintings is this, and the total amount I've made from sculptures is this, the total I've made from photographs is that. You need data to be able to make all these decisions, even when it comes down to just choosing the artists that you want to work with. Another example would be art fairs. When you want to participate in an art fair, you have to look at all sorts of variables like transportation, shipping, clearing, the cost of getting your team there. And it gives you a certain price point or a certain range of artists that you can only work with. So your artist has to reach certain benchmarks if you really want to go into an art fair, especially an international art fair, and come out successfully. So you have to look at data of this is what this guy is selling for, these are his prices out there, this is the amount of international interest he's getting. He has already had a show in the US, so he already has US collectors. You have to look at all the data really.
Yes, I hope the photographers don't come for you. But
Please,
anyways,
oh, I'm sorry, no offense to anybody. I'm speaking from my
well,
personal opinion, please.
no problem. But I think one thing that I picked up from your answer is that there are some exhibitions and there are some things you do for the love of the game. It's
Yeah.
not, yeah, it's not
It's not
profit based every
commercial. It's
time.
not always commercially. That's not the main focus, and really, it shouldn't be. But sometimes you should just be able to make decisions based on the strength of an artist or the conviction or the depth of their work. But if you really want your gallery to be successful and you want to be able to do your next show and your show after that, you have to look at all these things as well.
Yes, just two more questions and then we'll round off. So to piggyback on this, your answer now, for the love of the game, and then also having impacts in the market, having impacts, in the country. How do you balance that? So, I mean, whether or not you should do some things for the love of the game, you have rents to pay. The landlord will come knocking. You have staff under you that you want to pay as well. So, how do you balance that? I mean, how do you balance, doing things for profit and then doing things for impact in the markets?
Okay, well, I think this is a question that would apply more to creators, but it can also apply to a gallery manager as well. And I will speak to, again, personally from our personal experience. So I think everybody who's in a position that they can either determine what shows or what exhibition or which artists they work with, they has to identify what their own goals are. So if your main focus is just to make money for the gallery, that's fine. That already determines who or what you want to work with. If you have that love of the game, what is your love of the game? Is it that you want to champion themes like, female equality in arts or, political narratives or things like that? I personally, my own focus is amplifying emerging voices in African arts. So emerging talents is what I do. I love to work with emerging artists. And sometimes you already know that because an artist is emerging here, you can't sell his artworks for as high as maybe you could sell an established artist who has already been working 20, 30 years ago. But that doesn't matter. You're not really looking for the most amount of profit that you can make from that exhibition. Your goal there is to amplify this voice, introduce new talent to the thing, and give him a platform to boost his artwork or his practice. So I try to make sure I do at least one or two of these type of shows every year that is again focus on that, my own personal drive and conviction, my own love of the game, which is amplifying emerging artists.
All right, thank you very much. So, I mean, to round off the questions for me, what's the single most valuable piece of advice you would give to someone aspiring to manage a gallery or, I mean, manage an artist in Africa, in Nigeria today?
I would say be adaptable. Be adaptable. Art is always changing. The things that are trending now may not trend next year. The artists that are, getting the highest prices right now may not necessarily be the ones doing that in 6 months. So I say you just always have to be adaptable, keep your ears to the ground, follow what is I don't even want to use the word trending in that sense, but follow the latest market trends and latest market parameters, whatever is hot right now. Learn from it and then see how you can apply it to your own personal practice.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Majid, for your time. I mean, I've learned a lot, and I hope people that have been listening have also learned as well. So, to the questions that we have, and please, if you have any more questions, now is the time. So, hi, Majid. Very insightful. I agree. Do you provide consultancy advice for new collectors on what pieces to purchase?
Yes, yes, we do. So again, I work as an art advisor and art consultancy. Sometimes we work with private collectors, sometimes corporate collectors like offices, organizations, things like that. Depending on the level of collecting or your level of interest in art, we will offer customized or curated yeah, advice to you. Okay, this is your, let's say, we would ask, how much do you have to spend? What type of artworks do you like? What are your goals? What do you want to achieve with your art collection? And then we start from there. We offer you advice on who you can build your artwork collection with or around. We also look at artists that we have identified or think would have, room for growth or room for value, things like that. So yes, we do offer personalized advice and consultational services to new collectors.
Yes. I mean, if someone on call would like to reach you, how should they do that?
I'm on Instagram. That's the easiest way, Majid.Biggar. You can just follow me on Instagram, send me a DM, or anyone can just drop a message. I think I'll give you my email address. So anyone who wants to reach out to me can just shoot me a message on either Gmail or IG, one of them.
All right then. So the next question, what is the difference? Oh, sorry, what are the differences between a gallery manager and an art curator?
Okay. I used to work as a curator, as an art curator before I moved into the role of a gallery manager. And to me, I would say the gallery manager is more of an all-round encompassing role. You have other things to consider. The curator is looking for things like the strength of the artist, the works. The curator is more aligned or more interested or looking into the art exhibition. He's looking for the talents, he's looking for the themes, for the concepts, the placements of the show, the narrative that runs through it. Whereas the gallery manager has to worry about things like, budgeting, how is the curator going to afford this exhibition? Who's going to give the creator timelines? He has to worry about working with the media department or getting a photographer, or he has to worry about the sustainability of the gallery, how to make sure that that gallery is still standing next year and the year after that, and they have the opportunity or ability to keep on putting out all the beautiful shows that the curator has come up with. So I guess the curator is more of a specialized role, and the gallery manager has a lot more things to worry about.
Just a follow-up. Which one do you enjoy the more?
I, I think I will plead the fifth on that one. For now, I
Oh,
won't ask.
okay. No problem, no problem, no problem. So the next question here is, there's been an increasing interest in African arts internationally. Do you track the interest as part of your research and use that to determine the types of artists you want to work with?
Yes, yes, we do. Yes, we do. As we all know, there's been a huge constant increase in African art over the last couple of years. I would say since about 2021, 2020, we saw the rise and the interest in Black art, where you see these heavily pigmented Black characters in artworks, figurative art, things like that. So we do follow these trends. We see what is happening internationally, what type of art is more likely to be engaging with an international audience. And yes, sometimes that does influence the artists that you're working with. So again, just going back to the Black figurative craze, and I use that very nicely, Black figurative hype of a couple of years ago. We all knew that international audiences, international collectors were really focused on a certain style of artworks. So therefore, if I want to go to an international art fair outside of Africa in the US or UK or stuff, and I know that this is a style of art that is trending, again, as the manager, you take those into account. What can I do to maximize my possibility of selling artworks there? There's a huge interest in this style of art, this type of artist in America. I'm going to America to sell artworks. Let me take along artworks of that style or of that artist. So yeah, we pay attention to all these things.
Okay. So next question. Does the price of an art determine its worth?
Does the price of an art determine its worth? That's a tricky question, and I would say no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. The price of an artwork is not always determined by its worth. It's a tricky one because yeah, we all know how the art market works, and the higher the price, supposedly the better the artwork is. But then how do you now look at things like performance arts, video arts, things like that that don't have prices that can't be sold, artworks that are put out for political commentary, to drive a message, to leave like a lasting impact and legacy. These artworks may not sell, they may not even have prices on them. Are they worth any less than, a 50,000 USD artwork? I would say no. So no. The worth of an artwork is not determined by just the price alone. It can be determined by, the narrative it drives, the legacy it leaves behind, the message the artist is trying to push across. Art at its core is not inherently commercial. It is a medium of expression. So I would say, yeah.
Yeah, I think really art is it's a singular experience. I mean, it's just as I was saying earlier, I see an artwork, I think, wow, this is amazing. I can pay X for this. Another person will see it and say, oh, this is shit. I can't pay any amount of money for this. So it's really is a singular experience. It depends on how it makes you feel
Yeah,
personally.
yeah. It's like someone said, value is based on perception and the emotion, that you get from it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
you can't just put a
Exactly.
dollar price on everything. I think that's the end of the discussion.
Yeah. So, looking forward, where do you see the Nigerian and African art space in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, that's a long question. Well, I see sustained growth in Nigerian and African art. I mean, yes, a couple of years ago we saw that the international world was focused on a particular style of art, which was Black figuration. But what I did notice was that a lot of artists use that increased attention, increased sales to now like drive their own artistic practice to new levels. So now you have young guys who are having museum shows in South Korea. You have Nigerian artists who are going for, residencies in China and things like that. So I think with this increased international attention on Nigerian and African arts, the Nigerian and African artists have been able to tap into that to really leverage that attention, those sale prices to expand and improve their own practices. So I see a lot more of internationally recognizable Nigerian and African artists in the 5 to 10 years. I see a lot of guys that are working with being able to command international prices, getting a lot of like international level art shows and museum shows represented by big collections. I see our art really becoming more global and that globalization to become more entrenched than it is right now.
Okay. The final question here. How easy or difficult is it working with established artists and upcoming artists? And what advice can you give upcoming artists to help them maximize their potential and talents?
What easy or difficult is it? Each one is I don't think there's an umbrella that fits that particular question. I think every situation is different. It determines on the artist. I have worked with established artists who are been working in the industry for decades. I know they're supremely chill, very easy to work with. You just talk to them, very helpful, very insightful, very wise, easy relationships and things like that. And on the other hand, I've dealt with upcoming artists who have not had their first exhibition and are complete headaches. So it's an individual process, I would say. And then what advice I, well, okay. And then
Apologies for
in
that.
terms of that, sorry, did you say something?
No, I was saying apologies for the distraction. Please
Oh, no problem.
proceed.
Yeah, so advice I could give to upcoming artists, again, like I said, make sure you create that strong brand for yourself. You know, if no one sees your art, no one's going to be able to recognize you. You know, if you can't capture and keep the attention of a collector, of a gallery manager, you know, of a curator, you know, when you talk to them, when you meet them, when you have the opportunity to come across them, then you know your art is not really going to be able to move on. So you need to create that and create that strong brand identity, believe in yourself, you know, amplify your own unique voice and yeah, look for the right opportunities.
All right then. Majid, thank you so much for your time and the wealth of knowledge. I've been very grateful with your time, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much. Please, I think you should
Right.
probably spell your Instagram handle so that they don't get it wrong.
Uh sure. Majid dot Biggar. I'll just drop it in the chat now so anyone who's
All right.
looking and I'll put my email address as well.
Well,
Yeah, so thank you very much for having me. Was very fun.
well, definitely the pleasure has been ours. Thank you so much.
All right, great, great, great.
All right, then. Thank you everyone for joining. Lovely questions. I think this has been our most active participation on any episode of our webinars. So, Majid, thank you once again. So, and thank you to everyone that participated. Um, I hope we'd love to have you back another time. So,
Of
it
course,
is me.
anytime, anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All
All
right,
right,
then.
sure. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining.
All right, now. Bye, guys. We'll catch you in the
All
next
right.
one.
All right. Bye. Bye.